Hello and welcome back to Raise Gaming and more Wilds. With the Flamefete Festival arriving alongside AT of Duna, I wanted to provide a quick look at some of the interesting new things that you might not know about with this update. So let's just get straight into it. If you're unaware, there is a new skin or cosmetic you can give to your seikret, which makes it this kind of fire phoenix. And you can see that mine is a light blue and looks a little bit different to the default version. If you want to equip this yourself, then you just go to the usual place in the 10 appearance menu, seikret customization, and then under the decoration type, you'll find Firebird as a new option, but yours will actually start like this. It kind of forces this default color option, and so as you can see, it's very easy to just turn off and then start to customize yourself. The colors of the seikret will be the same as before, whatever you had on by default, and you can change it in a few different ways. But the most interesting aspects of this is the outer feather color as one, which actually changes the flame color that emanates from outside the seikret. Some of the colors on this are really cool, and so while we can just use this thing for the next couple of weeks, I'd recommend at least experimenting with it. The other part that's pretty interesting that you can change would be the eye color. As you can see, it's a bright yellow, but as we change the color, it completely changes as well. So there's some really cool customization you can do with this thing. I think it's really cool that we just get stuff like this for a little while, but I must admit this is one of the coolest ones we've got, and just getting to use it for free I think is pretty cool. Alright, everyone's pretty excited about this. One of the new free additions that we got with this update is of course the water gun. You pull this out, and then once it's out, it's just kind of out. And so to fire it, I just press R2 on a controller and fire it like so. I kind of always have this reticle up, so if I press focus mode, I can kind of aim in and zoom in a little bit. But yeah, you're able to fire this off, and also quick reload, as you can see. There's some cool little additions that you can do with this thing. For example, you can actually fire at NPCs and they will react. As you can see, there's actually like a wet, she's quite mad at me. There's actually a wet effect to it, so her clothing's a little bit drenched in this case. The palico also has a unique reaction to it, where he doesn't just take the hit and get kind of mad and laugh. If you do it enough, he'll actually start firing back at you. And as you can see, I'm now wet too. And it popped up on the side because I have the food buff. Swimmer meal actually activated. Swimmer meal is an effect that you can get through eating, which increases your attack when wet. So if you're in an area where there isn't water, you can do this gesture, shoot your palico, and have him trigger it on you to trigger this effect for a while, if you want to go that far. But if you actually stop and look at the water gun, you're going to see something a little bit interesting inside of it. Inside of it is a little duck wearing a little bit of clothing. This is apparently Guku, which is essentially the duck mascot from Frontier. We got a new animal mascot in 5th gen with World, which was of course Poogie. So the return of this one has people quite excited. It's been a long time since we've seen this mascot. Very unexpected in this form, but it would be nice if we could get this as like a pendant, or it would show up permanently somehow, because obviously we're not going to keep the water gun forever just for the summer event, I imagine. Fun fact, if you shoot your seikret with this, it actually triggers its iframe dodge until it's completely expended, by the way, just like it took a normal hit. Some NPCs actually have unique reactions to it, whereas some just don't react at all. At least Gemma does say like a line where she's like, oh, come on when you shoot her. I think it's just the special name characters. Like Alma gave us that special reaction when we're out in the world, whereas when they're in these specific poses where they're sat down, maybe less so. One final detail to do with the water gun then is the ridiculous fact that it actually deals damage. 2 damage a shot in this case. So it is entirely possible to defeat monsters with this weapon like you're using some sort of light bowgun. You can roll with it, but remember, you don't exactly have many shots per go. So it's like 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot, and then I've got to reload. So yes, this will take quite a while, but if for some reason you're deranged enough, you could do this. It technically does damage. But to get a little bit more crazy with this concept, there is some very relevant use to this small damage. For example, what kind of element damage is this? Well, I went to Zoshia to see what happens when I shoot one of the crystals. You know, the element crystals, whatever you put into it, explodes in that element. Well, as logically, it's water element, and it works against these crystals. So any guardian you're against, you could pop them by using the water gun, which is pretty cool. Obviously, that's going to be particularly relevant against Zoshia when you're facing the super attack and you've got all those crystals you need to pop. Instead of using the pods, you could use the water gun for a bit of fun. But here's a really interesting detail to add to all of this, is the fact that it's technically a damaging range projectile, which means unlike the ranged players, melee players don't have it so easy for dropping boulders and that kind of thing. We gotta use our slinger. meaning we got to put our weapon away in most cases. As you can see, you can deal that damage to boulders with the water gun, which drops it down, dealing the damage and working as normal. So this could actually be a very functionally useful thing in the right context, so I hope that helps. If you haven't actually tried barrel bowling yet, it has changed actually mechanically as well as visually. They do this fun thing where they change the barrel balls for each of these events. But the thing about this one is that they're not a different visual for a barrel. It's literally a bouncy ball. So they literally work differently. As you can see, they will bounce in new ways and move and rotate because they're spheres. But in my experience, sometimes they just simply blow up the moment they contact with the floor. I've also seen a couple clips of that on Reddit, so I guess I'm not alone on this one. It's a fun visual update, but yeah, literal mechanic changes. So if you've not tried it with this change, give it a go. You might be a ball throwing god and not realize it, where maybe you struggled more with the barrels. One really cool detail to do with the new hub is the new dragon statues, which if you haven't really stopped to look around, maybe you missed. As you're walking down the center hall, on your left, you've got this big red dragon, and on the right, we have this big green dragon. Now obviously these don't exactly look like any monster in particular, but it does kind of represent Rathian and Rathalos in some way, I would say. But whoever these double dragons are, it's represented in another way. If at night you don't have the divas show up, you might enjoy a fireworks display, which is something we did see in Spring Blossom, the last event of this nature, but it with completely different visuals, completely different fireworks. At the end though, you have this big finale where they fire off all these massive explosions and something special happens. In this case, you get the two dragons again, the different colours, red and green. And these look a little bit more like a familiar Rathalos and Rathian. Maybe they're like playing or embracing in this case, but there's some sort of worship going on here. It would be interesting if they were unique monsters or creatures that we aren't used to seeing, if not just Rathian and Rathalos. At very least, sometimes when you're walking around here, you can come over to this table here and two people can be having a conversation. It's some sort of designer or engineer. And it's a conversation where they're basically saying, oh, did you design those statues? And the guy's like, yeah, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. What's it to you? Being a bit weird about it. So I'm wondering whether we can catch more conversations from that guy and learn more about them. If you've seen anything about that, let me know. It's kind of a fun, messed up detail. Each character has a new outfit, as we've been obviously looking at. So we got a special one for Eric, looking a lot more interesting than normal. All of the workers in town are wearing something similar to what Eric is wearing, but some having like unique types, as you can see. Obviously, Gemma has her own unique outfit. And lastly, of course, Alma with her own unique one. But once again, one poor, miserable NPC has absolutely nothing for some reason, despite him being a main and important story character. I call him Neglected Natter, and he looks pretty sad about it, to be honest. Honestly, I don't know why he's still being excluded. It was weird in Spring Blossom and people brought it up then. He just stands out so starkly compared to everyone else. Like, he's not got one of the young kid models, he's not got an adult model, he's like somewhere in between. So maybe they have to design something unique for him. I don't know, maybe it's more work. It does feel like he deserves that addition. It's very strange, and in general, he looks really sad. Maybe we could help him with that. Another new thing that you'll find in this update is the new gesture set, Volume 7. So if you want to purchase that, you can. I don't plan to personally. But in that is the new net. The classic bug net, which actually features the exact same sound effect capture endemic life, and also fishes apparently, with the old visual. This sound effect just invokes something in me. So thank you for posting this, Soyadora. Some pretty intense nostalgia here. Next, we continue the old references with the new diva songs that are occurring each update. So with this one, it kind of harkens to the end credits, the song that plays at the end of Try, but also has a lot of the theme from Ceadeus and his theme, Moonquake, which was basically the final boss, if you will, of Try. But it's really cool the way that we call back to a lot of 4 as well as 3. But the very concept of the diva comes from Monster Hunter DOS, so really just going back through all the generations. And I don't remember a time where there's been this many references to the previous games, direct links, returning NPCs. It's really cool. Now, with the update, we have a couple new sets like the Afi set and the Diver set. And something fun with these updates is how they've been changing the grapple and well as your different knives. The grapple will be affected by the gloves as a reminder of that. All you need to do to tell if it's going to be a special slinger or not is if it actually has a slinger on the side of the arm. Whereas on this one, it's something a little bit more interesting. A little fireball in both masculine and feminine, but you can still see that there is a slinger there on it. Whereas it's the waist that's going to change your knives. So if we take a look at the masculine version of the diver set, you can see we've got this little barrel and a tiny, well, very thin knife underneath it. You can sit in the tent and just let him do some whetstone use and spot it that way. Or if you do different gestures, like say battle cry here, you can literally pull the knife out and take a look at it. So that one's the really small knife. So if we slow this down and take a look at it, you can see it's a very worn knife and a very thin one at that for the masculine version. But the feminine one has a completely different one that's honestly a lot cooler. So in the feminine version of the diver spell, you get this little harpoon gun knife thing with its own holster. I think this is a really, really cool little thing to have and could work in a lot of cool sets. Still, technically it's a knife. You can pull it out like a pistol, sure, but there is a blade on the lower half and then the actual shot of the harpoon. Maybe bring this against Legaicrus. But yeah, very cool sort of cosmetic change there. Alright, last thing I want to mention for this video is the pop-up camps. Of course, there's new sets of free things you can do to alter your camps right now, and so you might want to have a look. It is interesting to see that a lot of people aren't engaging with this stuff. When you use an SOS flare and people come join you, they see your camp. They have to use your camp locations. So at least have them set up in a good place. But if you do customize them, they can serve some actually useful purposes. So with the barrel, it's an obvious one. Let's say you're using a weapon that benefits from attacking, charging up, building vials, or whatever it is, upgrading your spirit level with longsword. You can do that quickly before leaving the camp. This can be great if a monster's moving from area and you have a moment to recover or something of that nature. Whereas that food delivery here in this case will actually restock as time passes and give you, I believe, rations when you pick it up. So just an infinite free supply of them. I don't know if the purchasable ones have anything beneficial like that. Hopefully not if they're ones you have to purchase. But I do think it's important to set up your pop-up camps right. Especially when it comes to the barrel here, because I literally see speedrunners in their runs prepping their weapon quickly using these things. And so it serves a very real and important purpose. At the very least, have the barrels. But there you have it, just some of the more interesting and unique aspects of this update, at least the one I've seen and I wanted to mention today. If you guys have anything you'd like to add to these topics though, or anything new, let us know in the comments. But until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.